African history is often burdened by the old fictions designed by non-Africans seeking to justify enslavement. Great thinkers throughout world history backed this fiction through their works and influence. This harmful narrative is distilled into one idea: that Africans have not a civilized bone in their bodies, and the rest of the world is encumbered to bring light into the dark continent. However, through the work of genuine modern scholarship, this mythology is being deconstructed. Today, we're going to be discussing the technological achievements of the so-called Bantu peoples. What up, African world? It's Somsim here, and welcome back to another video of African history, culture, and worldview. By supporting this channel on Patreon, you're helping in the creation of these videos and contributing to this content. The link to Patreon is in the description box below. Before we begin, I want to acknowledge that some may be uncomfortable with the term Bantu. While the terminology is at times shied away from, its only use for this video is to identify the large masses of Niger-Congo speaking peoples who share a mother proto-language and culture, all of whom migrated and settled large portions of the African continent. So I'm hoping that any protests can be temporarily suspended for the sake of simplicity. The term Bantu refers to a subset of the Niger-Congo language family. This particular group of peoples are unique because over the course of about 5,000 years, they began to migrate and settle across most of the African continent. It's often referred to as the Bantu expansion. Although they're a diverse group of African peoples, they share a Proto-Bantu culture and language that is theorized to have originated somewhere in Central Africa. To give you an idea of their scope and geographical significance, it would be difficult to throw a rock below the Sahara and not hit a Niger-Congo speaker and their subgroups. Much of the fiction created about Africa stems from the cultural misunderstandings and stereotypes of Bantu peoples. The idea that Bantu peoples were backward, possessing no civilization or technological sophistication, was at times mendaciously promoted. I think even today, the Western world would have difficulty connecting the words Bantu and technology in one sentence. Modern scholars are beginning to get a better picture of Bantu history and their technological achievements. So, what are these technological achievements? Let's begin with something taken for granted. Food production was critical to early humans. The technical achievement of Bantu people ushered in the capacity for greater population densities, later resulting in the formation of large sovereign states and communities. They did this through a technology that transformed subpar soil into fertile soil. In 8th century Zambia, the Sabi and Batwatwi peoples developed Chidamine technology. Sabi Batwatwi farmers employed Chidamine technology. Both groups turned marginal soils into more fertile earth by tilling into the soil the ash that came from burning the vegetation to clear fields. Farmers could yield larger grain harvests and support larger populations as a result of the boost they created in soil nutrients. Without this achievement, it would be difficult to imagine successful migrations and organized kingdoms throughout the Bantu world. One of the more interesting technologies achieved by Bantu peoples was ceramic technology. The reason I say it's interesting is because according to the scholars, Proto-Bantu women were the inventors. Africans living deep in Africa twice separately invented ceramic technology long before in the case of ancient peoples in Mali, at least 3 millennia before the appearance of ceramics in the Middle East, and 4 millennia before this technology began to spread from the Middle East westward to the eastern parts of Europe. Aside from being culturally and spiritually important, ceramic technology was useful for agriculture and culinary techniques. Perhaps the most impressive technological achievement comes from the Bantu people of the Great Lakes region. Scholar Christopher Ehret details the salience of Bantu iron technology. As the investigations by the archaeologist Peter Schmidt have revealed, by the end of the first millennium BCE, African iron smelters living in the African Great Lakes region began to construct furnaces capable of generating sufficiently high temperatures to produce carbon steel directly from the smelt. And this is no small matter. Europeans did not learn to produce steel by a single step until the invention 2,000 years later in the 19th century. The Chinese were also ahead of the West in this respect. They had developed capacities for directly producing steel by the 11th century, but even their advance took place centuries after African smelters already had attained this capability. This was quite the prodigious technological achievement Western fiction could simply not account for. Iron technology contributed substantially to the material culture of Bantu peoples and their overall success as a group. Lastly, the architectural technology of certain Bantu populations marveled foreign visitors. The stone edifices of Great Zimbabwe built by the Shona people convinced several observers like Cecil Rhodes that Bantu people could not have possibly achieved it. Great Zimbabwe is perhaps the most popular representation of Bantu architectural achievement. However, there are other examples of Bantu ingenuity. Swahili people built their distinctively styled houses and mosques from the coral that skilled divers cut and shaped underwater while it was still pliable. They then brought it up to shore to dry into lasting porous building materials ideal for insulating people from the hot, humid environment. Their thick insulated walls maintain cool indoor temperatures. Builders sealed them with a white limestone plaster to protect from the deterioration that tropical heat and moisture could easily cause. Ibn Battuta, who traveled all throughout the Islamic world and even to China in the 14th century, described this city, Kilwa, as one of the finest cities in the region. With the available picture of the agricultural, metallurgical, and architectural achievement of Bantu peoples, one must find it untenable to hold on to Western fiction concerning Bantu peoples and their societies. In fact, the Bantu achievement of ceramic and iron technology before its establishment in other parts of the world deemed worthy removes without a doubt the question of African backwardness. Hopefully, Bantu history can now be positioned in its proper historical place, a wondrous instantiation of great human technological achievement. Well, I'm all out, guys. If you like these videos and want to help in its continued production, consider supporting the home team on patreon.com. The link is in the description box below. Know thyself. Remember your ancestors. Peace.